Hi viewers, just want to do this video on how to replace a damaged inner CV boot without the dedicated tools. Now if you want to know how to remove the axle from the car, there's a good video by Mod Mini and I'll put a link to that in the description. I'll also include a link to the parts. If you watch the Mod Mini video, he says to have a person step on the brakes while you remove the hub nut. Now you can use a screwdriver to lock the brake on, as shown in the picture. And the other thing from the video, he recommends to replace the hub nut. You can actually reuse the existing one. Just when you press the little dent out of the nut to get it unscrewed, try and get that. If you can maintain the shape of the nut itself, it's fine to reuse it. If you want to know how to remove this piece to get your new boot on without the use of a bearing puller, the way I did it was just grabbed one of these punches, pin punch, place it up under the middle section away from these two bearings because you don't want to damage them. Obviously there's one on the other side there, so grip it in the vise, put your punch under, grab your hammer and just gently tap upwards. So just do a few light taps there, move around. Sorry, a bit hard to see there, so move around to your other side, tap it up. Now if you're real fussy, you can go all three sides, but just with the vise in the way I couldn't really access it, so I just did one side, like two sides. Try and get it even as it's coming up, and actually it's not held on very tight, so you shouldn't have too much trouble, but just be really careful because you don't want to damage these splines and you don't want to damage the bearings. So as it starts to come up and these splines are exposed, you can just use a piece of cardboard or something, or a thin piece of plastic such as this ice cream lid or something, cut it up, use it as a protection up under here. Obviously before you start removing it, it does have this circlip on top, which you'll see the lip in there where the circlip seats. Apologies for the blurry camera. So yeah, remove your circlip and this will come off, this piece, and your new CV boot will go on. Smallest end down here sits in this recess, and then push it down out of the way first until you get this piece back on. Now one key detail with this, you'll notice it's got a flat, thicker section if you look at it that way to that way. So that flat section needs to go to the top, otherwise you'll have trouble getting your circlip back in. So I just want to find a socket to fit over this to allow me to tap it on over the shaft. So this one looks pretty good. It's a 15/16. Okay, so you should have hopefully heard the difference in the noise of the tapping there that indicated that it was right down. And it basically should go right down to the, should go right onto the spline. And take your circlip, snap ring, whatever you want to call it. Now you might want to take a flat screwdriver and just check that the circlip is seated. Can actually do it by hand by the look of it. Yeah, looks like it's all in place. Now obviously you want to have made sure this is all clean, all your bearings, and if you've bought a kit like I do, you should, obviously it's going to come with the new boot, 2 of these clamps, a large and a small, and some grease. So now I'm going to apply some grease to these parts here, and then the rest I'm going to put inside the axle. Okay, so here's the other piece. This is a part that goes into your transmission, and this is the part of the shaft that the bearings move around in, up and down. So this is where I'm going to pack all my grease. Okay, so you can see from the shaft, from the shape of this here, sections of the boot need to line up to fit into these parts. So it's actually a good reason not to do this first. Leave this clamp off so that you can move it around. And there is actually a little groove in here, so make sure it's over that groove. So with these two you need to make sure that this section here, the slotted section, is on the outside. Okay, so basically all I've done is made sure that the ring is located in the correct position, and got it as tight as I could by hand. And now you want to pinch this bit together. I don't actually have the correct tool, so I'm going to see how I go improvising. Here's a close look at this clip. So what you want to do is, you've got these barbs here, you want to squeeze it up until these barbs get into the correct slot. So once it's tight enough, then this here, with the correct tool, these bottom points here squeeze in closer together. So what I'm going to try is using this piece of my circlip pliers. It's just a different section. I'm going to try and squeeze that in there at the bottom, get my pliers on top and squeeze it together, and we'll see what happens. So now I've done one side, I've squeezed it in that way. I'm going to turn it around this way and squeeze the other side, just so it doesn't go crooked on me. So here I'm just using the screwdriver to press the slotted end of the clamp down to ensure that the barbs go into place. So a bit later in the video I'll actually show you a close-up of the clamp and explaining this in a bit more detail. So I don't know if you can see this. So that's sort of the effect. Hopefully that is good enough to hold it. It seems like it's pretty tight and I don't think it's going to go anywhere, so fingers crossed. So you just repeat the process for the smaller clamp, although you might find that it's more difficult than the larger one. So I didn't end up using the small clip, as I'll show you in a minute. So just put these little, just tapered this off here, made it more pointy because it's not really going underneath this part like it should. Okay, so this clamp was really difficult to get. So what I did, clamped it in the vise, and I got this file. It's a triangular file. You could use a screwdriver possibly or something, and what I've done is held pressure on the clamp to stop it moving there, rested it up against my belly, so I'm holding it with my belly. I've grabbed these rat nose pliers, grabbed the end of the clamp and pulled it, which holding this piece in place has allowed it to slot into place now. So that's just the way I did it. And again, what you want to do is when you're squeezing this part together, you want to take a screwdriver and press it down and ensure this little the second little tab that's sticking up, so the one that's to the inside, so you want to push the clamp down so that that little tab locates over the top of it and stops this from coming up and loosening it off. So after all the trouble I went to get this little clamp on, I've discovered that there's a potential for the clamp to cut the boot, which I suspect is what happened to the original boot. So that piece that's sticking up there, when you imagine the suspension travelling up and down, and remembering that this is a CV joint which is constantly spinning, so you've got that constant rotation plus the up and down movement of the suspension travel, it's quite easy to see how that could cut the boot. So for that reason I've decided to remove this clamp and fit a plastic cable tie or zip tie. So to remove these clips, all we need to do is take a small screwdriver and just pry that up. Here's the cable ties I'm going to use. So they're 370 by 4.8mm. That measurement there is a critical part, so these are a little bit narrow actually. You probably want like about a 6mm at least, possibly even a 7mm or a 6.5mm, just to get it, to fill the entire width of the recess in the rubber boot. But I'm going to just try these. These should hopefully do the trick. These particular ones, the tensile strength is 85 MPa, whatever that means. Obviously you want to use heavy duty ones, the heaviest duty sort of ones you can, and something you might want to monitor too and just make sure 5 years time, I don't know how long these would last, but check it periodically, and if it's missing just replace it. So you want to try and get this as tight as you can, as this is going to be the seal. Once your grease gets hot after extended use and warms up, it's going to go like oil, so you want to have a good seal around here. That's about it. Hope this video has helped you. Just showing you that it can be done without the correct tools. I would probably recommend, if you can, to use the correct ones, especially the ones for the clamps.